Yo, Lucario.
Yo, what's up?
Uh, can we debate on your shitty teleological predicate stance?
Bro, how much aura does someone need for somebody to like literally ask, hey, is it okay if we debate? Instead of just like piping up and be like, yeah, I give the argument.
Yeah, go
Can
ahead
can
and
you
give the
please
argument.
can you please debate
Bitch,
me,
give
sir?
the argument.
Anyways, you wanna debate the teleological predicate stance? Do you wanna contend that the teleological predicate is true, or do you wanna contend its
Oh, I
relation
mean,
to our moral judgment?
descriptively, yeah, descriptively, the baby has biological functions that are enabling it, or rather, it's on the trajectory to become rational. Cool.
Yeah. Well, some
Yeah,
people disagree with that, and so I just wanted clarification that that's something that you grant. Now, just to be clear, you're
sure.
contending it's normative relation, right?
By normative relation, what do you mean?
It's a relation to what's normative.
You just rehashing the definition doesn't explain it.
Well, I thought if I like put it in different words, maybe you'd finally understand.
I
But
grant you thought that.
perhaps, yeah, yeah,
Listen,
yeah,
listen.
perhaps, yeah,
I
yeah,
grant you
perhaps
thought
there's
that.
a
Yeah.
specific term that you disagree with, or that you just don't understand.
No, dumbass. I'm not. When I ask you to clarify something, that doesn't mean I disagree with it. That means I need clarification to understand it. So, can you
Yeah, do you want
clarify what you
clarification?
mean?
Do you want clarification on normative, or do you want clarification on relation?
The entire thing, both.
The entire. Okay, normative
Yeah.
is just something that we should do.
Uh huh.
I can explain more on what I mean by we should do, and then its relation is just how it influences another thing in this context.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sort of power. Because I mean, I can just grant you that it's developing. It's on the way to develop a mind, and with a mind, you're gonna be capable of rationale. Sure. Cool.
Well, do you grant that its development in this process, do you grant that it's anthropomorphic in nature?
Anthropomorphic, and yeah, it's gonna actualize anthropomorphic traits. Sure.
Yeah, well,
That's
not that it's going to actualize anthropomorphic traits. I'm just saying that the trajectory itself is anthropomorphic as well. And
okay.
fuck, I
When you
just
say
lost
that.
my Tetris game.
When you say the trajectory itself is anthropomorphic, I'm not sure what you mean there. Can you clarify?
Well, I'm just saying that its teleological projection towards a specific set of properties, that
Hmm.
property of having the projection is itself a human-like property because a lot of humans
Yeah,
have
yeah,
it.
I grant. Yeah, yeah, sure, I grant that.
Okay, yeah. And so seeing as that's a very exclusive anthropomorphic trait,
Hmm.
um, like there can be other traits that are true of like other animals, but the more exclusive it is towards humans, the more anthropomorphic it becomes by nature of its exclusivity. And so
Okay.
seeing as that it's so that this trajectory is very, very exclusive towards humans, that just increases its anthropomorphism. And
Hmm.
so I also make an inference that once you have an increase of anthropomorphism, that's also an increase of the amount of feelings that we have for our being, our particular being. And so,
Okay, are you okay? You're indexing this towards other people's intuitions, and you're saying it's probability raising because this teleological predicate towards rationale is anthropomorphic specifically towards humans.
yeah, it's very
I
exclusive
mean,
to humans, and that very much influences our relation to it and our empathy that we feel for it.
but obviously that's not the case because if we're gonna index this towards majority of people's intuitions, majority of people are pro-choice, and like obviously the mothers don't give a fuck about the baby because they're killing it. So
Well,
how are you reconciling?
I'm not using a numerical value to get to a normative conclusion.
Well, I'm not
I'm
saying
just
you
getting
have to put a normative value on it. I'm just saying if you're appealing to other people's intuitions and saying that this teleological predicate that's anthropomorphic only for humans is like probability raising. I'm just saying I don't see how that's the case when the intuitions seem to be against it.
I'm not just using intuitions. I'm using intuitions to get to a particular conclusion, and then what I
Hmm.
do with that conclusion is that I make a further inference. And so, no, I'm not just going to say, okay, well, most people are pro-life, so pro-life is true, or vice versa, where most people are pro-choice, so pro-choice is true. What I actually do is I evaluate, you know, the sort of properties that people value when they give responses to like veganism, or when they give responses to like why slavery is wrong or why Nazism is wrong. And all those responses seem indicative of the idea that a certain level of anthropomorphic traits influences our empathy.
Okay, but okay, the fetus prior to like I don't know 12 weeks, it lacks any sort of anthropomorphic traits, or rather anthropomorphic traits that are morally relevant. I don't think they're developed enough, right? So
Well,
if you're
okay,
just talking about the biological trajectory towards rationale, I mean I can grant that, but I don't see how that's some sort of anthropomorphic trait that is valuable, at least to other
okay.
people.
Well, I'm very curious. So It seems like there's kind of two claims. One that the fetus lacks anthropomorphic traits, and then
Mhm.
two, the fetus lacks any morally relevant anthropomorphic traits. Which one of them are you affirming?
The latter, rather.
That was the biggest
um,
one, bro.
chill, chill. But okay, yeah. So yeah, you agree. I mean, you agreed earlier with the first one, and yeah, okay. So you're
Mhm.
affirming the latter. Um,
Yeah.
Now, the latter, I'm curious on how you got to the conclusion that it's a morally relevant anthropomorphic trait as opposed to just withholding judgment and asking me for the motivations. Because it seems like you kind of have a concept of a morally relevant anthropomorphic trait, and I'm curious on what makes it distinct, this particular trait, the trajectory. What makes this anthropomorphic trait not more normative or moral, as opposed to other ones that you seem to grant that are normative and moral?
Okay, yeah. So when you're referencing anthropomorphic traits, I'm just thinking of something that resembles a human or like an infant child or like stuff like that. But it seems what you're talking about is a specific biological function or functions that are leading the baby to become a rational agent or actualizing rationality.
That didn't really answer my question. I can kind
Uh,
of infer what you want to say, but just to be clear, my question is, um, like, what criteria do you have for an anthropomorphic trait having any normative influence, as opposed to anthropomorphic traits lacking a normative
Yeah, okay,
influence?
sure. I'm saying the extent to which other moral agents can empathize with it. I don't see how it's the case that other moral agents are empathizing with this biological trajectory towards rationality. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So the level in which we empathize with it. Well, I take there to be I don't see any motivation for why we don't empathize with it. I can offer motivations for why we do, in virtue of the fact that I see a contrast in anthropomorphic traits and a contrast in our empathy. There seems to be a correlation there, and from that, I would hypothesize there is a causation as well. Um, you already agreed with
Okay.
another inference that I made, that the exclusivity of this particular trait influences its anthropomorphism, and so from that, and then we take my other hypothesis where there's both a correlation and then we theorize there's a causation. That's just going to get
Mhm.
to the influence that that's going to significantly raise our empathy with it.
Okay, well, okay, what I was affirming is that this biological trajectory towards rationale is exclusive only to human beings, as far as my knowledge goes, right? That's all I'm affirming. So, but again, I'm failing to see how it's the case that this biological function towards rationality is something that other people are going to be empathizing with. I mean,
Well,
I can
do you
see.
contend? Well, can you I just want to be clear? Can you rehash that I used to get to that conclusion?
Sorry, you cut out. What'd you say?
Can you rehash the inference that I used to get to the conclusion that they do empathize with it?
You're saying that it's some sort of okay, people empathize with anthropomorphic traits, and this biological or this teleological predicate towards rationale is anthropomorphic in nature. Therefore, if people are empathizing with anthropomorphic traits, and this predicate is anthropomorphic in nature, then it just follows they're going to be empathizing with it, right?
That's really close to what I'm saying, but a key distinction is that I was very keen on expressing that there's sort of a contrast. There's like a sliding scale
Okay.
of a correlation there, and so think about it kind of like a domain range function. Where well, do you know what I mean when I say like there's a domain and then a range? It's just like standard math terms.
XY axes.
Um, yeah,
No,
you can represent them with x, y. So we have a domain, and then we have a range. We have an input value and an output value. My hypothesis, stipulates that the input variable or variable, the independent variable, my
Right.
hypothesis is going to stipulate that that's a level of anthropomorphism, and then the output value, that's going to be our empathy with it. And so take this hypothesis function. We're going to see if this function holds up with the data that we have, and it ends up being the case at almost every point of moral decisions when we're evaluating what beings have moral consideration. That is predicted under the hypothesis that I levy, where the independent variable is anthropomorphic traits, and then the output variable is our empathy.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to monologue too much, so feel free to interject. But what I further did with this is that something you already agreed previously is that the exclusivity raises its anthropomorphism, because that's what we mean by anthropomorphism, something that resembles a human. And trivially, every animal has some anthropomorphic traits. But the more that the trait has been distributed amongst other animals, the less it becomes exclusive to humans, and vicariously, the less it's anthropomorphic in nature. And so when I posit that, okay, well, it's very, very exclusive to humans, that just entails that it's very, very anthropomorphic. And then once we have the fact that, a given fact that it's very, very anthropomorphic, we're going to put that into the domain range function, and then the generation that we get from it is that it's empathizable. Like we very much empathize with it. And that's what pro-lifers are getting at.
Okay, so when do you think this predicate starts? From conception, or?
I think it starts in the ovum. The sperm has it like very trivially. They have very small amounts. But something that raises our ability to empathize with it is once the trajectory has been geared towards a particular, because like we can't really empathize with something so broad, like the probability of a sperm becoming a human, it's pretty low. But then take its trajectory. Well, its trajectory isn't even geared towards a particular because the internal functions of a sperm is compatible with almost every ovum on the planet. So like that's just a concept of an ovum, that's a concept of a sperm. And so it's very variable, it's compatible with anyone.
You think ovum, okay, you think like at a very low amount of triviality, the ovum has this teleological predicate?
Yeah, it's human. It's like it's developing, it's alive,
Okay,
and it has.
do you think people trivially empathize with ovum?
No, because it's very, very small. Like that's when when I say trivial, I just mean like a very, very. Because yeah, it's human. I mean, it has human DNA just like me. So I mean, yeah. But do I empathize with it? Something that very much hinders our empathy with, which is another variable that we're going to consider. And sort of the formula, or the equation. Something that we're going to consider that's very crucial to the equation is things that reduce our empathy with it. And so, considering the reduction of empathy, that's going to be on things where things are variable. So. Like I was saying earlier, when like the ovum is very compatible with any sperm, it could be black, it could be white, it could be tall, it could be short. Every variant of human out there, it's compatible with, unless there's like a defect, which is very rare. So yeah, there's like billions and billions of sperms out there that it's compatible with, which just emphasizes its variability. And the more variability something has, the less particular it is. And we empathize with particular things because our concept of empathy is a relation to a particular. So,
okay, you brought up something interesting. There are things that are going to lower our ability to empathize with something. Can you expound on what those are?
Yeah, well, it's just what I said, like the variability of something. So, I'm able to empathize with, I don't know, Sally. I know what Sally is. Sally is a concept. I have an understanding of Sally, but if Sally could have red hair, could have blonde hair, I don't really know that. Sally could be tall, she could be short, could be white, could be black. Then I don't really know Sally at that.
These things are compatible with the ovum because it's not the conception hasn't occurred yet. It's not its own unique individual, but with the zygote or the fetus that has happened, so it's its own unique individual. There is no variability within its being or what it's going to be. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. It's cool. So, okay, but you're saying it lowers the probability of you empathizing with it. So, are you saying you don't empathize with it at all, or is it still an input into the variable of your domain range function?
Well, we can kind of just run another function where the more variability something has, the less I can empathize with it, and then that's not going to go well for a reductio because take the billions of members in the set that we have of possible satisfactions for the ovum and the sperm respectively. Well, that ranges in the billions, and so like any reduction is going to be multiplied by billions. So like, yeah, at face value, I could say, yeah, I mean, I empathize with it, they're humans. And then we consider, but it's a fucking sperm, and, it's not really developing towards something unique.
So, okay, you don't empathize with it at all, or you empathize with it like a really, 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 really small amount?
Well, probably like an infinitesimally small amount, like to the point where I wouldn't be cognitively aware of it. So, no, I don't really care.
Okay, cool.
Definitely, even if I did say that I infinitesimally smallly, empathize with it, it's definitely going to be override by the feeling I get from, the termination of sperm.
So, like, okay, are you saying that the termination results in a harm, like a deprivation of these biological processes towards rationale?
Trivially, by the concept of like a human organism dying, then yeah, like when the ovum dies, yeah, that's harmful
So, okay,
towards
but
the
by,
production.
by harm, what do you mean? Like, what harm theoretic are you subscribed to, or just how are you cashing it out?
Well, when I say true, I just mean that yeah, that's a concept of death. It's like it's being frustrated of biological values. But those that don't also conveniently, those just don't even like even if we stipulated it was a really really big frustration of biological values, I don't care at all about biological values. I only care about cognitive frustrations of values.
Okay, so what do you think the wrong maker is here in the abortion?
Well, the wrong maker is another inference with our empathy, and so I think about our empathy. Well, at least one mind is involved, and uh, empathy makes it by the nature of empathy that makes it where if you harm something, you feel bad for it. Not that feeling of badness is on a cognitive level in which I am able to make a normative inference from that. Or I shouldn't say normative inference because I guess you could say on a trivial level, like um, there's like norms with respect to biology, like biological norms, like a frog should jump or something. I don't really care about those. And they definitely don't influence my action at all. So I'm not going to say that it's a morally bad thing. So yeah.
Okay, you're saying, okay, are you saying that it's the wrong maker here is the lack of empathy for the moral agent?
Uh-huh. Well, not,
Uh,
well, I don't know if you worded that correctly, but I think if I know what you mean, then yeah.
you're saying that they ought to be empathetic, and by getting the abortion, it's obviously like not an empathetic thing to do because
Yeah.
it's frustrating the biological functions or the biological or the teleological predicate of that's indexed
Of
towards the fetus.
rationality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then for every pro-choicer that gets an abortion, I'm going to ask like maybe you can reject my theory of value, but what other theory of value do you have? Well, there's consciousness, and then okay, well that gets you to a vegan conclusion, and then I would ask, pro-choicer who's getting an abortion, are you don't happen to be vegan, are you? And they're like, no, they're not human, they're fucking pigs. Which I have another argument for why I think consciousness is sufficient for moral value. So that's an issue on its own. And then for the people who reject that, and they say like, oh, I don't value like a cow. It's not a human. I'm human and stuff like that. And they just scream that over and over. Okay, well let's take that. And then the thing that you're aborting is human. So I mean you don't care about consciousness. So you definitely shouldn't get the abortion.
Okay, I see. Okay, well, two things. I don't think death is harmful, so I'm just gonna give you the Epicurus objection, and then like I don't even well, even if we posit that death is harmful, I don't think you're the type of thing. Okay, rather, yeah, death isn't harmful, and then rather, I don't think that the fetus is a person. So even if you're empathizing with like a rock, right, any sort of object, that's fine. But I don't see like the wrongdoing done to a rock or like a fetus prior to it having a mind being anything that's morally relevant.
Well, to go one point at a time, when you say that death is not harmful, what do you mean by harmful there?
Okay, so for death to be harmful, there has to be a subject for the harm to be indexed towards, and death is the complete cessation of life. You don't exist anymore. So who exactly are you indexing the harm towards?
Well, well, you're saying where are you introducing the harm for, but that's criteria on your semantics, not mine.
Okay, well, okay, so then who are you indexing the harm towards, and how
Yeah,
is
well,
it that it cashes out?
the process of indexing harm towards a particular, it seems like you kind of have like criteria for what particulars are going to be sufficient. I would
Mhm.
say that well, the thing that was harmed was the thing that died because you frustrated the function. You frustrated that
The
you
thing
know
that
you
so are you saying that you're harmed by death when you're alive?
what?
You're saying you're indexing it towards the past subject, the subject that died, right? So this is going to be prior to you dying. So I'm asking you, do you think
Yeah,
that you're harmed?
there's a system. I'd
Okay,
say
what's
that well,
mhm.
your system was terminated of its programming, or well, I mean, I'm using an analogy here, but like or metaphoric language, but the system that you are, well, actually, no, sorry, not even that you are, but the thing that died, because I don't even think that you just are your body, but your body, it was harmed. No, I might not say that you were harmed. Maybe you were emo, super suicidal, and you just really wanted to die. And then yeah, I guess you weren't harmed, but
Okay.
I would definitely say that your body was harmed because it can't fulfill its processes anymore.
Okay, but then the body was harmed when it was alive by death? That still doesn't make sense to me. So let me just clarify this again. When I'm saying that death isn't harmful, it's because that when you die, you cease to exist, right? So I don't see how you can be indexing the harm towards any sort of being, right? Even if I grant you
Okay,
that.
wait. I
If he
just
was
want to be clear. Is your objection unironically? How was Billy harmed? Billy doesn't exist. I just blew his brains out, but how was he harmed? He doesn't exist anymore. Like, is that
Yeah,
unironically the
I'm
objection?
saying, yeah, well, sure, you can think of it that way. I'm just saying that the
Okay, what
subject
a
no
beautiful.
longer exists. So what
Well, at
exactly
that
is being
point,
harmed? How is death
well,
harmful if the subject doesn't
at,
exist?
at that point, what a beautiful semantic move that really convinced me. I'm being
Okay, well, okay,
sarcastic,
so
but
it seems like you don't have an answer, so I'll just grant you that death is harmful, and we can move on to my next
I
point.
already answered, and I also want to know what you mean by harm, because you didn't really tell me.
Well, I'm critiquing your stance. I just take harm to be you can input any harm theoretic. It's not going to fall through with the
Just
Epicurus
give it.
subject.
Just okay. Well, just take any and just describe.
Yeah,
Describe it.
deprivation,
Just very
depriving.
very. Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's say we can
Deprivation.
you deprive. Yeah, depriving a person of its future viable experiences. Or rather, I take a person to be the mind. So depriving the mind of its future viable experiences is going to be the harm.
Okay, beautiful. Is that an issue with my view? Like now I
Okay,
know what
well,
Scoobert. Now I know what Scoobert on Discord.com means by harm. Beautiful.
yeah. I mean, you still didn't give a satisfactory response to that Epicurus objection.
Okay, and the Epicurus objection was that you blew Billy's brains out. And then you further asked the question: how is Billy harmed? He doesn't exist.
Yeah, you can think of it that
Just
way.
really,
So
really
if
good job.
listen,
Really
wait,
good
Lucar,
objection,
if
man.
death is okay, if you cease to exist when you die, right, and you're saying that Billy was harmed, well, Billy doesn't fucking exist anymore. So how was he harmed by being killed? Doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't
But even if hold on, even if I grant that you can cash out death being harmful, I don't take it that the fetus part of having a mind is a sort of thing that can experience rights violations or be harmed because it's like a rock. I don't think you can harm a rock. Same way you can't.
listen. The reason why I think semantic critiques like that are stupid is because it's kind of like it's tantamount to like giving it a theory of personal identity, saying like, okay, well let's take like an animalist view or some conjunctive view where a person is mind in its relation to its biological I guess sex source. And so you could take a view like that, and then say, okay, well, that's what you mean by a person. And so, in order to touch you, in order to make physical contact with you, I'd have to make physical contact with either your mind or your biological extension. So when I pushed you over on the swings, I didn't actually touch you. I touched your shirt. So to make the proposition that I touched you or I made contact with you, well, that would be false. Like that's just a really stupid objection. Like I would just be a player. Like in some sense, I mean that yeah, like pardon me, like if you touch my shirt, you touched me. Um, so like this is why I really hate just like semantic theoretics. I hate like semantic objections that you offer because I'm literally a pluralist about most things. Like I feel like most things, most words that I say, I'm a pluralist about where it's going to be contextual. So there could be context in which I'd say Ethan was harmed when he died, or I could say there's a context in which he wasn't harmed. But the entire point doesn't motivate me on anything that I didn't previously believe.
Okay, so let's just grant that death is harmful. Okay, I don't take it to be the case that non-persons can be well, rather, yeah, I don't take it to be the case that non-persons can be harmed or experience rights violations. But my specific view is talking about rights violations.
You don't think
Is
non-persons
valid?
can be harmed?
But let's just. I'm gonna stay. Well, my actual view is that it's a rights-based argument. So I
Well,
don't
just
think that
use
a non-person.
whatever LARP view you're using. Just whatever. Just take
No,
that.
no, it's just Big Leo's view. Okay, so non-persons can't have rights because they're not a person, and only things with minds have rights. Only entities
Well,
that
what do
bear
you
a
mean by
mind are
rights?
rights bearers.
Okay, wait. What do you mean by rights?
Moral entitlements,
Okay. Well, what's
a right to
did you
life,
give?
rights of bodily autonomy, shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just reject that. The concept of rights are only applicable to persons.
You don't think that the concepts of rights are only applicable to persons? You think
I don't think.
non-persons can have rights? Or you think that
Yeah.
non-persons? Okay, can you give me an example?
Well, use your big brain in this context and just think about a possible example I might mention.
You want me to think of an example you haven't? Okay, I'm not Houdini. I'm not a telepath. I can't read your mind. Give the example. Go ahead.
The fucking fetus, dog. Like, what did you think?
fetus doesn't have a mind, so obviously I'm not going to accept the fucking thesis that it's a fucking person or a rights bearer.
Do you remember what I just asked? Do you remember what I just asked you?
You said you're going to give me an example of something that is a non-person that's going to have a mind.
No, I didn't ask. I didn't ask you for example.
Not mine.
You asked.
Rights.
You asked. Listen. You asked me for an example, and I was like, use your big brain, because I'm a pro-lifer, right? We're talking about abortion, and you make the assertion that moral entitlements are exclusive to things with a mind, and I'm like, well, I don't accept that. And then you asked for an example, and I was like, okay, what do you think I'm gonna say?
Sure, you can say okay. When you say the fetus, you can just like index a rock too. You can say, oh, rocks have rights. Like, cool.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I mean, I don't believe in that. But if you really want to just bring up a random hypothetical,
I'm saying it'd be the same for you. Like, if you were to give that example, it'd be the same of giving like the fetus. They both don't have a mind.
Well, obviously, under my view, it wouldn't be the same, right? Because the fetus has properties that we just spent like 30 minutes talking about that isn't true about a rock. But I mean, maybe you just forgot about that conversation. I'm fine with that. But I'm happy reminding you of why.
No, that's fine, but it doesn't have a mind. So like it could have those processes. That's fine.
I love this. I love this response where like we talk for 30 minutes about the things that about my view and my theory of rights, and then your response after like 30 minutes, bordering 40, is just but it doesn't have a mind. Well, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so non-person, no rights, so it's okay for the mother to kill it prior to having a mind.
Why? Now I'm going to ask you a question that I already asked. Why would I accept? Why should I accept that moral entitlements are exclusive to things with a mind?
Because then the concept just becomes incoherent and nonsensical. Like, would you say rocks have rights or trees have rights? Or like,
do you think there's a dichotomy between having mind exclusive moral rights and then having a theory of moral rights that it's compatible with like rocks and trees? Do you think that's a dichotomy?
I mean, you can. Sure, that's fine.
I don't think that's a dichotomy. I reject that it's a dichotomy because
no, I'm saying if you want to, you can have a theory of rights that's indexed towards like non-persons. Sure.
Well, I mean, hopefully you agree I can.
Yeah, you can.
I'm really glad you told me that I can. Before that, I was a little iffy. Before that, I was like sweating. I was like really nervous. But now that you told me I can, I'm happy. I can rest at ease.
I'm glad I made you happy.
You're such a gay ass though. But the fuck.
Okay, so it seems we're just at an impasse now. So we can.
Well, it's not an impasse, really. It's just I gave motivations for my view, and every time I ask you for motivations for your view, you're just like, well, you can reject this, or I mean, yeah, you could do that.
Motivations for my view. Okay, cool. Like when we have somebody in a coma and they're just gonna like be in a comatose state for like 50 years and they die. I want to say that person has rights because it doesn't have a mind or future viable experiences, right?
Okay, I grant.
Or like when we make, let's say I make a robot and it's not sentient, or let's say I make a humanoid robot and it's like plugged in, right? But it has a mind and resembles a human being, but it's just like a rational cyborg, right?
Nigga thinks he's Eric.
So like the sentience view is going to say that, it doesn't have past experiences, so you can kill it. But I'm going to say that it has a mind of future viable experiences, so you can't kill it or unplug it rather. Let's see. I can answer the impairment argument.
Wait. I just want to be clear. Why are you telling?
Why did you just give
motivations for? Okay, motivations for what view specifically?
My view.
Okay, what's your view? Because at this point, I really don't know.
What's up?
At this point, I really don't know.
Yeah, I think that persons are entities with minds, they're rights bearers, and that we value these minds because they're going to have minds of future viable experiences. That's a subject of experience.
Just take, take an example. Well, let's just say hypothetically, I cloned your mother. This clone has never been sentient. It's about to be sentient in 5 seconds. It's let's go 5 minutes. It's about to be sentient in 5 minutes. It's never had any subjective experience before, but it does have a future. And it has a mind in the future with valuable experiences. Do you think that thing has rights?
Does it? Okay, so you said it's not sentient. My view isn't contingent on things being sentient to cash it out. All I care about is if the components that give rise to the mind are present, then that entity's a rights bearer. So if they have a mind, they're a rights bearer. So do they have a mind?
Do you think this thing is a person?
Well, okay, this is why I have to be clear. You're saying that it's not sentient, but I just explained to you how the sentience is irrelevant to my position. If they have a mind, then yeah, you can't unplug them or kill them.
But if they don't have a mind, what happens? Can you unplug them?
Obviously, yeah.
Okay. So on your view, because earlier it seemed like you were saying that, okay, well, the reason why thing is morally wrong is because, you deprive them of a future with a valuable mind experiences. Do you not
When
think
they
that when they
establish
kill...
a mind, yeah.
Oh, okay. So after they establish the mind. So just to be clear,
Mhm.
I gave you a case. I cloned your mother. Your mother, your mother clone has a future of valuable mind experiences, and they do not have rights, right? You can just
But then you
unalive them.
said she doesn't have a mind. The clone doesn't have a mind. So yeah, like if it doesn't have a mind, then there's nothing. Okay, in order to be deprived of a mind of future viable experiences, you have to have a mind. So if you're saying that the clone doesn't have a mind, then yeah, obviously you can kill her.
Earlier, I was under the assumption you were saying that something being wrong was made
Mhm.
wrong by the fact that it was a being that had,
A mind.
future mind experiences. And now it seems like you're saying, okay, and I'm not saying you backtracked or anything. I'm just talking about, what I thought you were saying.
Mhm.
And now I'm under the impression that you're saying that the thing that makes it wrong is the fact that it has a mind, and that mind itself in the present is being deprived of future valuable experiences, right?
No. Okay, once you establish a mind, that mind is going to be the type of thing that in the future is going to be the subject of experience of like a future like ours or positive hedonic states or blah blah blah, whatever. So I just want to clarify that I don't value the negative experiences at all. I'm just talking about the positive ones, and entities that have a mind are the type of thing that can be deprived of a mind or future viable experiences. Does that make sense?
Uh,
So if you
no,
have a mind
no.
established,
To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because it seems like you just say that can still be deprived of, and I don't know if maybe you're making a syntax error when you say this. You might have to enunciate a little bit more. A mind of future valuable experiences. Did you say that?
yeah.
A mind of future valuable experiences.
Okay, so literally think of the flow argument, but I don't okay, I take it to be the case that if the mind is the subject of experience, right? That's the type of thing that's capable of being deprived of a flow, not an organism.
I
Does that
I
make
feel like the
sense?
way that I articulated your position would be better and would lead to much more clarification. Because the way I articulated it was that you're saying if a mind was deprived of future valuable experiences, that would be wrong. But then for some reason you keep on saying that if it was deprived of a mind of future valuable experiences, and that seems compatible with an entity not having a mind, but still being deprived of a mind of future valuable experience.
Yeah. If you're killing the person, the mind is gone. So the thing that was gonna have the future viable experiences is gone. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, that's wrong, right?
You think that's
It,
why is that wrong?
it, no, not incorrect, but it's morally wrong, right?
Oh, killing an entity that has a mind and that mind is gonna have future viable experiences? Yeah.
No.
So
Killing
it's
an
fair.
entity that is no killing an entity, depriving it of a mind of future valuable experiences. Two things are true here.
You have you
Two things could
okay.
stop.
Listen.
Two things could be true here. Either you're
I
making
can
a
give you the
syntax error,
clarification.
or sure, you can try. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so in order to be deprived of a mind of future viable experiences, you have to have a mind first. Does that make sense? Like, if something that doesn't have a mind, right? You're not entitled. It doesn't have a right to life. But once a mind is established, you have the thing. You have the subject of experience that's going to go on to have a future like ours. That's going to experience the positive values in life, right?
Okay, so
Without the
it's
subject of
wrong.
experience, which is the mind being present, you're not really depriving anything of anything because there is no mind to be deprived.
Yeah,
Does that make
so
sense?
it's wrong. So it's wrong to deprive a mind of future valuable experiences, right?
Because they're a right spirit. Yep, they have a right to life.
Okay, that's the way I articulated it earlier, but for some reason you kept on saying something that was also seemingly inclusive with, just a regular entity. But I mean, that's fine. So, just to be clear, in the case where I cloned your mother,
Uh-huh.
and just answer it very, very succinctly, I
Yeah.
cloned your mother, about to be sentient in 5 minutes, never had sentience before. It's okay to, just murder her. Or
Okay,
sorry,
when
not
you
murder her, to
clone,
kill her.
okay, when you clone an entity that has a mind, it would just follow that the clone is going to have a mind as well, unless you want to say that the clone doesn't have a mind, right? In that instance, it would be okay to
Scuba,
unalive it. But
think to yourself. Think back on what I said. Did I say that the clone has a mind? Did I say that?
wait, you just said that it's never been sentient and it's going to be sentient in 5 minutes.
Yep.
So it does. I want to be clear. It does have a mind.
No, I
It
never
doesn't
said
have a
that.
mind.
Does
So
not have a mind.
you cloned the entity that has a mind, but this clone doesn't have a mind.
Yep. Is that hard for you? Sorry, is that something hard for you to like
No,
understand?
I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear. Okay, so yeah, if it doesn't have a mind, then it's fine for you to unalive it.
Okay, I mean, I take that to be a kind of reductive. I thought that's pretty unoptical. I feel like if
Okay.
someone cloned my mother, and then, okay, wait. Actually, I'm gonna do one more thing. Let's say that they cloned your mother, and then your original mother died of cancer. It took like
Okay.
I don't know. They just died out of nowhere. And now this clone is like all you have left. Is it wrong to like unalive it?
Okay, and again, it doesn't have a mind.
Yeah, it doesn't have a mind.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, mother dies, and just to be clear, luckily, your mother was cloned right before she died, and it's about to be sentient, but you can unalive that. I take that to be an optical idea.
Okay.
I feel like do you have any motivations for the exclusivity?
But what do you mean by exclusivity?
The exclusivity of moral consideration being attributed to things only with the mind.
Because I think they're the only type of entities that are rights bearers. I mean, I can just
I
show
never
you
thought of that
instances
before.
where, yeah, I mean, I can just tell you why I don't take the harm theoretics to be like, I don't just take them to be serious. I think like if we just do process elimination
Well,
on harm theoretics.
I'm just gonna tell you every harm
Yeah, what's up?
every harm theoretic is a retard. I need to say.
Every harm theoretic is a retard.
Yes.
Okay, so then we agree. So then we just that's okay. So for example, I can give you instances where a being isn't harmed, but we want to say that it was like morally wrong to do this action or that they were actually harmed, right? Like
I
I
feel
don't know,
like the
like
motivations. I feel like the cases that you're going to give me are only going to get me to the conclusion having a mind is sufficient for moral value, and it would be an optical to say that they don't. And I concur. I believe in vegan ethics. I think that having a mind is sufficient for moral value.
yeah. Okay,
Gets a
then we
mind.
agree.
Well, no, we don't agree because I have another sufficient criteria, and then you're not substantiating an exclusivity. You're just substantiating a sufficiency.
Well, I mean, I already explained to you why I don't take your view to be motivating because it's a non-person. Like you can point out the teleological predicate. That's awesome. I can grant all that, but I don't think there's any harm being done when you're taking a non-person off that trajectory. But
Okay.
if you want, but
One thing to just like full on, just last thing to just full on reject the exclusivity. I think that you can give moral protections and protections regarding an entity, by virtue of the fact of it resulting in a more moral state of affairs. And so, I guess one more question is that take the example that I gave earlier, where I cloned your mother. Mother died, clone never been sentient. Is it okay to rape that clone?
okay, you keep talking about sentience, but I don't care about that. I just care whether or not it has a mind. So
No,
see,
no.
this is
It's not sentient. No, it's not sentient. It's not gonna.
no,
It's
no,
not gonna be sentient for another.
wait.
It's
I'm
okay to
saying
rape
I
or.
don't, Lucario. I'm saying I don't care about the sentience. I care whether or not the entity has a mind. So this is what I don't understand. You cloned the entity with a
So can
mind.
you just answer the question?
Wait, I just want to be clear. Okay, you cloned the entity
You want to
with
be
a
clear on the
mind.
thing that I made fun of you for not understanding earlier?
Wait, hold on. I'm saying that you're cloning an entity with a mind, but the clone doesn't have a mind, and you keep talking about
Yeah,
sentience. I don't
and
care.
that's hard for you to
I don't.
understand.
No, I'm understanding that. I just want to like keep pointing that out for the audience. So yeah,
Okay, so
it'd
you
be
do
fine for
understand
me.
it, so you can answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be wrong for other reasons, but yeah, it's a non-person show, sure.
Yeah, and so we're gonna give moral protections to that thing. We're gonna protect that thing from being raped. Right?
I'm saying it's a non-person, but like, sure, it'd be permissible.
Yeah, so I just don't. That's motivations for why you don't see an exclusivity.
Okay.
Because it seems like we gave protections to this thing, and by what we mean by rights is just moral protections. So we gave protections for it in virtue of morality. So it seems like we gave not consideration. We gave moral protections, vicariously rights, to non-sentient things. And so yeah, I mean, you didn't give motivations for why it's exclusive. I gave motivations, very distinct motivations for why it's not exclusive. We can move on.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Um,
I think I did pretty well.
Well, I mean, I was gonna give more. I think there is more motivation for why you should accept my view, given some other values that you have. But if do you want to end it here?
Well, I think I unnecessarily bit those bullets. Though I don't think I had to bite those bullets. I think Leo would have had better answers, but yeah, I don't. That shit didn't make sense. Where you clone someone with a mind, but then the clone doesn't have a mind. Like
No, it
I don't
did
care
make
that
sense.
well.
You're just like autistic.
But okay, but how does it make sense for you to clone me and then my clone doesn't have my mind? Like doesn't have all my properties? Then
Okay,
it's
wait.
not
So
a
it doesn't.
not
Just to
really a
be clear, it
clone.
doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense to you.
Not really. No. Like if you're okay, when you're saying you're clone,
Okay.
I'm thinking of
What if
something
I
that.
asked you? So I'm sorry. I'm kind of sparking out, but I cloned you, except you had a buzz cut, or you had a low taper fade.
Yeah. Then you okay, but that's not like
Do you struggle to understand that?
No, I understand that. I'm saying, but the thing with the mind is that's something that's exclusive to my nature or something. Not really with my. It's not the same with my hair.
I
Does
cloned
that make
you,
sense?
but
Like what
no, it
makes
doesn't.
me me? Wait, Lucario, listen. What makes me me is my mind. I think I am my mind. But then you're saying my clone doesn't possess a thing that makes me me. Doesn't have that quality. Like
Okay,
my
so when I say
haircut
that,
or like what's up?
yeah. Okay, when I say that I cloned you, well, obviously I'm talking about your biological structure there. So
Just that,
if your
not the
only issue,
mind.
yeah, so if your only issue is that hey, that clone is not me, but what we mean by clone, and even cases of fiction literally make the distinction between cloning someone biological. I have to think of the case. I'm pretty sure there's this one series of movies that made a clear distinction between like cloning someone and then cloning just their bodies. And unironically, the best case I could give was like Kingdom Hearts. But yeah, it just seems like I was under the assumption that you had like a notion of cloning that was like widely accepted in pop culture, where
When you say you
obviously it's not
clone
gonna.
me, when you say you
Yeah,
clone me, I mean I'm assuming you're cloning my mind as well
yeah,
because when you say me,
replicating your physical function. Or
yeah,
sorry, not physical.
just the body,
Your
not the
physical.
mind.
No, the
Yeah.
concept of clone that's widely accepted in pop media is just physical replication of your physical structure. They're not even always sentient in fiction. But
I'm not
maybe I'm
talking
just a nerd, okay?
dude, forget about the sentience. That's not my position. Like yeah, that's fine, but I'm just telling you why okay, when you're talking to me and I think I am my mind, the subjective experience is my mind, and then you say you're cloning me, I'm as
I
okay,
know
the way I'm interpreting that is
you
you.
had issues understanding that by the concept of, but I'm just saying that. Well, I assume that like a very very trivial understanding of what a clone is that everyone else in pop fiction seems to understand whenever they watch
Yeah, but
these movies. But it's
that's why I
fine.
clarified I don't have a mind. So basically when you're
I know.
raping
No,
me,
you get the
you're
clarification. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, when you're raping me, you're just raping an empty husk. Like there's nothing
I never
there.
said I was raping you. I said I was raping a clone of your mother. And by that, I was just saying a physical replication of your mother to its to molecule by molecule. Only
Yeah,
the only molecules that substantiate its mind are not present. Like
yeah,
there's like
that's
some
fine.
prefrontal cortex disconnection there.
Yeah,
And
so
I
it's
think
just
it's
an empty
obvious.
husk.
Yeah, obviously it's wrong to like rape it.
I mean, it's an empty husk. I don't. It's like a sex doll, basically.
What the fuck? And it's about to be sending in 5 minutes. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about the sentience. I care about the mind.
It's about to have a mind in 5 seconds. Good clarification there. It's about to have a mind in 5 minutes. And you can rape it.
Well, actually, I think that when you get to the like proximal stuff, I think yeah, then it becomes wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good though. I'm punching up here. What
Yeah,
do you
you were.
think?
Oh, unironically, you did really good.
Nice.
Got the old jogging running.
Yo, why are they still going in side chat? She's not even in. She's not even in the fucking VC.
Wait, let me check.